Good morning. Gonna do a review on Viking Training Task 2, make coffee. But first, I need some more of this delicious black brew. So, it's early. Not that early. 9:50. Sun is up, bright blue skies, not a chemtrail in sight. Spring has sprung. This is just awesome. This is like one of my favorite times of year. My favorite time of year is fall. And this is my second favorite time of year, spring. Everything's springing to life. It's very nice. Before we get started, I want to show you just one thing because I'm overly excited about it. Living the simple life. You get pleasure in simple things. I think it was Sister Kate's last video. If it wasn't the last video, it's close to it. And it was something about, in the title, tribe. And she shot it when we were all working at TJ's. The Bear. Excuse me, I have a cold. And blah, blah, blah. I mean, I shot one. You saw that one. She shot a couple. TJ shot a bunch. You'll probably be seeing them eventually. But she did something while we were there, and I didn't know she had done it. And that was she stacked wood. And in her video, that's called something Tribe and You, or Thank You, or something. I don't know. If you just go back through her videos, SK, Sister Kate, I think it's Ya's daughter Kate on YouTube, or Sister Kate Shofar Mountain. That's what it is. That's her channel. If you haven't found it, Sister Kate Shofar Mountain. The title shot of the video is this stacked wood. And when I was there, I was feeding the shredder, chipper. And I saw that this thing of wood being built, and I thought, wow, that looks really nice. We might want to do something like that. I found out it was her idea. And she goes, yeah, I've seen that forever. I've always wanted to do it. And so the other day, last night, we were done. It was like 5:30. We were tired from the day before community work day. That was a physical day. And then we took a hike in the woods for a couple miles, looking for sheds, didn't see any, and did some work around the place here. And so we were done, and we were inside, and I'd poured myself an adult beverage, and I just got this unction of the Holy Spirit or something. And it was like, hey, let's go out, because I had out here all this wood that I had just on a pile. I mean, it was all wood that was cut too long to fit in my wood stove. But you know, when it's this much too long, it's just a pain in the neck to try and cut that much off. And if you cut it in half, then how do you stack it? And yeah, so I threw it out here for the campsite out here. And I just want to show you because I'm so excited about it. I just really like it. So what you do basically is you build a column of wood like this, doon, 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 on each side, and then you just fill the middle. So that's what holds it, instead of like driving T-post or something into the ground. And man, I told her we built a fort. I mean, look at this. Isn't that cool? Can you see that? Is it too shadowy? There you go. And all of these canes right here, most of them are raspberries that are coming up. There's some blackberries interspersed in there. And so we're just kind of cleaning this whole little forest area up. We're trying to make it a, like a park kind of thing. All right, enough of that nonsense, right? You're like, come on, PJ, get to the chase. Talk to me about Viking Training Task 2, make coffee. I'd love to tell you it's a blood-curdling story, but I'm feeling a bit parched. The Quiet Man, black and white movie, excellent. All right, Viking Training Task 2, make coffee or tea or hot cocoa or boil water. The requirements right now, here's the thing. Well, let me just tell you what the requirements were and we'll come back to it. The requirements were you can't use any water that you have stored or tap water or anything like that. You have to go get water. And then you have to bring that water back to your house because you have to build a fire in your backyard or modify it, balcony, whatever. Not using any accelerants, chemical accelerants, other than you could use a Bic lighter. You know, ish. Bic, whatever. Knockoff Bic. But no helpers to start your fire. And make coffee. Simple task. When I give instructions, it's real important to follow instructions. Every little detail is important. They are there for a reason. The reason that you could not use water that you had stored or in your tap was because I wanted you to identify, assuming plan A should always be in a grid down Tiyawaki WROL situation, plan A should always be to stay at home, right? Shelter in place. And you've heard me say over and over again, if your plan A is to go somewhere else when times get tough, you should move now. Because plan A should be to stay in place. Well, if you plan to stay in place, eventually you're going to need water. I don't care if you have an in-ground Olympic swimming pool, eventually you're going to need water. Or you have a glorious, and some of you do, a glorious rain catchment system, you know, that can hold 1.5 years worth of rain and blah, blah, and okay, somebody could put bullet holes in it, you know, blow it up. It was to help you identify another water source in your area that you could use. The reason I didn't want you to walk through the woods to the river, pull some water out, purify it, and make coffee there is because I want you to start thinking, and so why you had to bring it back to your house, how are you going to transport water? You know, in this case, some of y'all didn't even bring a whole bottle of water back. You brought like half a bottle. That's all I need for coffee. Think about if you had to make this trip and it was dangerous. Do you know, I worked in the Balkans for a while, and there were sections of the Balkans that were called Sniper Alley. There were more than one. And people would have to go to this place to get water. It was coming out of a pipe out of the ground, or there was a creek or something, you know, with dead bodies in it. And so they would have to make the trip every day or couple days to get water. And these people over there were idiots. I mean, little old lady babushka, you know, clearly a woman, running to get water with her bucket, and snipers would shoot them, right? It was terrible. But I want you to think about that. How are you going to go get water? Where are you going to get water? How are you going to get it? And I didn't throw in the security thing here, but you got to think about it. You know, there's a thing in the Bible about selecting warriors, and it's like, take guys out to drink, and if they just put their head down in the water and lap it up like a dog, you don't want those guys. You want the guys who scoop the water out with their hand, or looking around and drinking. See, they're switched on. Are you switched on? One of y'all, I don't remember who it was, but I remember the video, and I think I may have posted it, lived in a pretty urban area around Baltimore. Mildly sketchy neighborhood, right? I could see that neighborhood not being so friendly when the grid goes down. And the creek was scary, man. You know, it's like, whoa. Kudos to you. Kudos to you, right? Went and got water, did the task perfectly. Went and got water, brought it back, cooked it, I think in a barbecue grill or something. It's perfect. But I want you all to start thinking about that. I'm not going to do another task along those lines, but I want you to start thinking about where and how am I going to get water if my primary storage or primary means fails. What's my plan B? Primary, alternate, contingency, emergency. How am I going to do that? Start thinking about the security aspect of it, transporting it while you're collecting it and then transporting it back. Think about the logistics of transporting water back to your house. You know, I still want to build, and one of these days when I'm not doing something like finishing the inside of my house and I have more leisure time, I want to build one of those yokes like they use in, well, they used them in medieval Europe, but the one I'm thinking about is like the ones I saw in Asia. They usually make them out of thick bamboo, And it's not just a stick over your, because I've done that before too, the Sandman, carry him. No, it's they carve it out around the neck opening and they flatten it out over the shoulder part, and then it goes out, and with bamboo it's a little bit springy, right? Now you could also do it with oak or something like that. It's a little bit springy, and then you have hanging from the edges of it, like, you know, some kind of cordage or chain or something. Cordage would be lighter. And then a hook, and then you just hook the 5-gallon bucket, hook the 5-gallon bucket. Now you got 80 pounds, let's go. Right, and you can carry that ka-doink, ka-doink, ka-doink. But while you're carrying that, who's pulling security front, rear, and left and right? Things to think about. But I wanted you to go find water somewhere else so that you would have that in your mind. Okay, here's a water source I can use if times get hard, and I already know the way there, and I'll start thinking about other ways, those kinds of things. Okay, so you had to bring it back to your house. I don't care how you purify. A couple of you all ran it through like purifiers of one kind or another and then boiled it. You don't have to do that. If you bring your water to a full rolling boil, that's the key. That's why when you see in survival manuals, they'll say boil your water for 5 minutes. No, you don't have to boil your water for 5 minutes. That's just, they're fudging. You have to bring it to a full boil, meaning it's boiling as hard as it can boil. So if you know anything about cooking at all, you know, when that pot is just going, big rolling bubbles, blah, blah, not the little couple bubbles coming up from the top. If we have time in this video, I'll tell you a story about that. Full rolling boil, it's not going to get any hotter, right? So it will sterilize your water, purify your water, unless there's some weird chemicals in it. Then you're on your own. So phase 1 was find, locate, think about transporting water of this task. The second part of the task was build a fire. I wanted you to build a fire. It is clear to me, and to the point that I may actually do a fire starting video, that many of us need help with fires. So comment down below. How comfortable are you right now going out here? It's wet. It's very wet with the dew out here. And using just this stuff, building a campfire like that. Can you do that? If y'all would like me to give you a video on how to build a fire using, you know, nothing special, let me know in the comments, please. But I want y'all to be very comfortable building fires. Because constructing fire and using it is a basic human skill that we've forgotten. We've forgotten how to build fires. It's kind of what makes us modern Homo sapiens, right? We can build fires. What is that? Paleolithic man didn't know how to, and that's how you get the paleo diet, that kind of thing. Something like that. I'm not an anthropologist. But yeah, I want you all comfortable building fires, and I want you going through the thought process of grid down scenario. I'm here where I'm at. How am I going to source wood? How am I going to build fires? I want you always thinking about security, 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 security. You know, if I'm grilling up a Lego lamb in the backyard 6 weeks after the grid's gone down, ooh, you're gonna bring the Walking Dead, right? They're going to be coming. But I want you thinking about things like that. One of y'all, and I think it was the video I already referenced, was talking about how you can't store wood there, like the homeowners association won't let you. I tell you what, that homeowners association in that area needs to focus on some other things besides storing wood. Just saying. But you could hide your wood, and some people had comments to that effect, like little cabinets or whatever. But think about it. How are you going to burn wood? Where are you going to get wood? How are you going to heat your meals, boil your water, those kinds of things. So purify water, source water, transport water, purify water, build a fire, source the firewood that you're going to use, know how to build a real fire without any help, and then enjoy the fruits of your labor. It's a simple task, make coffee, but there's actually a lot in there. And so the goodness of these tasks is if you all approach them, not just as in, dun, 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 okay, got it done, but think it through and kind of do chains of thought off of the different things and think, you know, if we're in an end of the world as we know it situation, Tiawaki, How would this apply? What would this mean? What would this do? Dun, 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 dun. So things to think about. That was Viking, a training test to make coffee. Y'all like these and you're doing good. See, I get motivated when you get motivated. Does that make sense? I did Viking training tasks before, and it ended up being like the same 3 or 4 people doing them every time, and it was like, I just don't feel like it. All right, so 2 stories, because we have a little bit of time. First story, I was a security cadet. It was a thing when I was in college. You're like the campus interface between the students and the police. So you have a uniform, you carry a flashlight, you got a radio. You try to defuse problems with drunk students mostly, handle things before the popo has to get involved. And if you can't, you call them, they show up, and usually somebody goes to jail. So you try to prevent that. So I'm working with this guy, and I could tell you a couple stories about him, but I'm not. And I was talking about how I was really disappointed in the taekwondo I was taking on campus. I'd signed up for like an evening class because it seemed to me that it catered, these were my words then, give me a break, it catered to girls, and it wasn't serious, and the instructor was more interested in flirting with college girls than teaching me how to kick somebody's butt. And I was going to go downtown to the college town and take karate at this one studio, even though it was a lot more expensive, like twice as expensive, but they fought. And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to know how to fight. And he goes, well, you don't have to do that. I'll teach you. Now this guy, he was a little bit taller than me, but he was skinny. And he's just a normal guy. And I looked at him and I'm like, what are you going to teach me? And he goes, I'll teach you. He called it Haptiman. I've tried to look that up over the years, never found it. I said, what's that? He said, it's like Vietnamese Kung Fu. Never heard of it before then or since. And I have looked it up on the internet, and perhaps I'm remembering how he pronounced it wrong, but it sounded like Haptiman. And I said, well, how much? He goes, it's $1 a session. I'm getting ready to start a class. I think it was twice a week, like Tuesday and Thursday. I said, okay, I'll try it out. Oh, this guy was good. Oh, he really was good. And he was really fast, and he's the guy who first taught me elbows, all these different elbows. We had this kata where he did like 14 different elbow strikes. And so there were about 6 of us students, and this is all tying into Viking training tasks. There were about 6 of us students, and he would teach us something. You know, you always start out when you're teaching people how to fight, how to stand, right? And so he would teach us like a couple things over the course of an hour and a half, however long it was. And then he'd say, all right, practice this and come back Thursday. So I would go home, and I'd practice it a little bit that night, and then the next afternoon, I'd practice what he taught us, and I'd come up Thursday, and he'd go, okay, let's do this thing I taught you. And you could tell the other people there were just goofing. They just liked the idea of learning Kung Fu. And he'd have to kind of like teach them all over again. And they weren't very good, and they weren't taking it very seriously. And so this goes on, and then he'd teach us a new technique. You know, here's this. And this goes on for, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks. You know, just a couple sessions. And he says, hey guys, sorry, but I'm not gonna be able to do this anymore. I just got slammed with my course load. I got a term paper coming up, and and it was $1 a lesson, and we paid him $1. Now, back when I was in college, $1 was a lot of money. If you had $1 in your pocket on Friday night, you're good to go. So, you know, $1 was a chunk of money, but it wasn't as much as it cost to do Taekwondo. And he goes, yeah, I'm going to have to stop teaching. I'm too busy, so thanks. And everyone else is like, okay. And they just grab their stuff and they leave. You know, it's at the end of that lesson. And I'm kind of bummed, and I'm hanging out. And he goes, hey, Joe, come here. And I said, yeah, what's up? And I'm actually mildly, not depressed, but I'm bummed, right? Because I was kind of liking it. I like learning new things. And he goes, hey, I'll continue to teach you for free. I'm like, what? What about? He goes, I just made that up. He goes, I don't like teaching people who aren't serious. And he taught me for like a couple months, and he was good, and I got okay. So students can motivate the instructor, right? And whether you're students or not, you know, when you all do these tasks and you like them and you say, hey, I did it and I like it, da, 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 it motivates me to do more. So there's that. And then, what was the other one I was going to tell you? It had something to do with bad water. It's back in the video when I said, if we have time, I'll tell you this story. And we do have a little bit of time. I don't remember. Oh, yes, I do. I was talking about boiling. So I was on when I was in the military, I went to a lot of training, a lot of courses, and I'm on this survival training. And I'd been on a 4-man evasion team for about a week in the jungle. And so we're moving all day long, and then we'd hide at night and then under a bush in what ended up being like these pig wallows. They were full of pig crap and mud, and you just crawl up under there and put mud on your face so your camouflage, so your white face doesn't stick out, and you just sleep in this pig wallow all night, and then you get up in the morning and you keep going. And we had nothing to eat for 4 days, and we found, and trailing us was 2 instructors back there, anywhere from 30 yards to 500 yards behind us. They're just constantly following us, kind of evaluating us, because we had to like sterilize our site in the morning when we left, so it didn't look like anything was there except pigs and yada yada. So at one point we're hungry and we see this bird in a nest. We're like, oh, let's catch that bird. So a guy climbs up the tree to the nest, one of the 4 of us, and the bird's pitching a fit, man. And he gets the bird and he kills it, but it made a huge ruckus, and there were like 4 eggs in there, or maybe more. There had to be more than 4, because I ended up with 2 of them. And so he brings all this down. The instructors gave us a ration of garbage, deducted points from us for making all this noise, and then yelled at us. This kind of ties into the patrolling video fire thing, and said, now what are you going to do with that bird? Are you going to eat it raw? Because you can't start a fire. There was expletives in there. Because we're in enemy territory trying to escape, right? That's the scenario. And it's like, man, and he was actually really mad. I think he was personally mad that we had killed this bird that we couldn't eat. So he made us start a fire and cook this bird and eat it, and then gave us points took points off for building a fire. Right? But anyway, there were these trees. It was jungly kind of terrain, and there was, I don't know if it was black mold or charcoal or what, but there was this black, like soft bark on these trees, and when we couldn't find mud or didn't feel like putting mud on our face, we carried it in our pocket. We'd carry this, we'd pull this charcoal stuff out, spit on it, and rub it on our face, and it would be like black, right? And so I had a pocket full of that stuff, because you always had to touch up your camo, and when you're sweating in the jungle, it's constantly coming off, or you get points taken away. And anyway, so I have this soft thing of bark in my pocket, and I put my 2 eggs in there. I'm going to eat these later, because we knew at the end of this evasion phase we were going to go into individual survival, where you go over there, and then you had these tasks to do in your little survival camp. One of them was build a fire and keep it going 24 hours a day, because you're no longer in active survival. You're in what we call passive survival, meaning you crashed in the Ozarks, there's no bad guys in the Ozarks, and go ahead and build a fire. So I'm saving these eggs for like the day after tomorrow. Well, the one egg broke very quickly, and after a couple days in the jungle, man, it stinks. Oh, it's all over, it's filthy stinky. Anyway, we get to the individual survival point, build a fire. It was raining in the jungle. I get this miserable little fire. I mean, like this big going. It was terrible. It's just like, there's like little coals down there. It's not doing well. I have a canteen cup, and I decide I'm going to hard boil this egg. And so I put the egg, first I'm waiting for the water boil, but it's not, because it's a miserable fire. And it's just kind of hot. And then so I say, well, I'll put the egg in the water, because it'll warm up, and then when it's time to boil, it'll boil faster. So I have this little egg bobbing around in this water, and I cut up some guava. I put some guava, green guava. It wasn't even ripe yet. I chipped them into there to, I'm going to make a soup. And I had a couple berries of some kind that grew there that we could eat, and put them in there. That's all I got. And I'm hungry, it's dark, this fire is miserable, and a couple little bubbles are coming up, just like a couple, through my little canteen cup. And I convince myself that it's boiled enough to be a hard-boiled egg. You're a little bit delirious when you haven't eaten about 5 days and you walk through the jungle all day. Story's about to get gross. If you don't like gross food stuff, bye. I'll see you out there. Okay, so it's dark now. I can't see. There's no flashlight. This fire's not bright enough. And so I crack the egg, kink, and I peel it off, and it's hard. I can feel it. It's like, oh, I did hard boil it. Then I crack it again, and like liquid goes blip, 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 blip into my canteen cup. I'm like, what was that? Some water must have gotten into the egg while I was hard boiling it. And then I crack it some more, and this bird embryo about this long comes out all slimy. The hard part was its head. I was touching its head when I cracked it. And I can feel it, and I can kind of half see it in the darkness. And I'm like, oh, this is disgusting. But my body needed food. It really did. And I'm like, how the heck am I gonna eat this? And so I took it like a big pill. Look, look, look. I have a gag reflex. I'm like, But it stayed down. And then I drank my guava warm beverage with egg juice in it. I drank that. And do you know, about 20 minutes later, I could actually feel the nutrients coming through my body. It gave me no nutrients. This one, in this case, it did. And so I felt better. But yeah, it wasn't boiling. So be careful. That's why they say boil it for 5 minutes in survival manuals. You don't really have to, but they don't want you to try to convince yourself like I did in the jungle that night that, oh yeah, it's boiled enough. No. Full rolling boil purifies your water. All right, that's story time. We're gonna go get some mulch today, excuse me, and spread it out. And don't know if we're gonna work on the house today or not. Man, it's just starting to get that time of year where you don't wanna be inside. But my work is inside, which is why I wanted to get it done over the winter when you don't really wanna be outside. But now it's spring and I'm still not done. Ah! All right, I appreciate y'all. I'll see you out there.